Has China become one of the decision-making countries in the world? Part 1. Xi Jinping Xi Jinping, born the 15th of June 1953, is a Chinese politician who has served as the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party and Chairman of the Central Military Commission, and thus is the paramount leader of China since 2012. Xi has also served as the President of the People's Republic of China since 2013, the son of Chinese Communist veteran Xi Zhongxin. Xi was exiled to rural Yanchuan County as a teenager following his father's purge during the Cultural Revolution. He lived in a Yaodong in the village of Liangjia, Shaanxi Province, where he joined the CCP after several failed attempts and worked as the local party secretary. After studying chemical engineering at Tsinghua University as a worker peasant soldier student, Xi rose through the ranks politically in China's coastal provinces. Xi was governor of Fujian from 1999 to 2002, before becoming governor and party secretary of neighboring Zhejiang from 2002 to 2007. Following dismissal of the party secretary of Shanghai, Chen Liangyu, Xi was transferred to replace him for a brief period in 2007. He subsequently joined the Politburo Standing Committee of the CCP the same year and served as first secretary of the Central Secretariat in October 2007. In 2008, he was designated as Hu Jintao's presumed successor as paramount leader. To that end, Xi was appointed vice president of the PRC and vice chairman of the CMC. He officially received the title of Leadership Corps from the CCP in 2016. Xi is the first CCP general secretary born after the establishment of the PRC. Since assuming power, Xi has introduced far-ranging measures to enforce party discipline and to impose internal unity. His anti-corruption campaign led to the downfall of prominent incumbent and retired CCP officials, including a former member of the PSC. He has also enacted or promoted a more aggressive foreign policy, particularly with regard to China's relations with the U.S., the Nine-Dash Line in the South China Sea, the Sino-Indian border dispute, and the political status of Taiwan. He has sought to expand China's African and Eurasian influence through the Belt and Road Initiative. Xi has expanded support for state-owned enterprises, advanced military-civil fusion, overseen targeted poverty alleviation programs, and has attempted to reform the property sector. He has also promoted common prosperity, a series of policies designed with stated goal to increase equality, and used the term to justify a broad crackdown and major slew of regulations against the tech and tutoring sectors in 2021. Xi met with Taiwanese President Ma Ying-jeou in 2015, the first time PRC and Republic of China leaders met. Though relations deteriorated after Tsai Ing-wen of the Democratic Progressive Party won the presidential elections in 2016, he responded to the COVID-19 pandemic in mainland China with a zero-COVID approach, continuing it even after most other countries had shifted to a mitigation strategy. Xi also oversaw the passage of a national security law in Hong Kong, clamping down on political opposition in the city, especially pro-democracy activists. Often described as an authoritarian leader by political and academic observers, Xi's tenure has included an increase of censorship and mass surveillance, deterioration in human rights, including the internment of 1 million Uyghurs in Xinjiang, a cult of personality developing around Xi, and the removal of term limits for the presidency in 2018. Xi's political ideas and principles, known as Xi Jinping thought, have been incorporated into the party and national constitutions, and he has emphasized the importance of national security and the need for CCP leadership over the country. As the central figure of the fifth generation of leadership of the PRC, Xi has centralized institutional power by taking on multiple positions, including chairing the National Security Commission and new steering committees on economic and social reforms, military restructuring and modernization, and the Internet. He and the CCP Central Committee passed a historical resolution in November 2021, the third such resolution after Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping. In October 2022, Xi secured a third term as CCP General Secretary, the second leader of the CCP to do so. Xi Jinping was born in Beijing on the 15th of June 1953, the second son of Xi Zhongxin and his wife Kai Xin. After the founding of the PRC in 1949, Xi's father held a series of posts, including party propaganda chief, vice premier, and vice chairperson of the National People's Congress. Xi had two older sisters, Kaiokao, born in 1949, and Annan, born in 1952. Xi's father was from Fuping County, Shaanxi, and Xi could further trace his patrilineal descent from Xing and Dengzhou, Henan. Xi went to the Beijing No. 25 school and then Beijing Bay School in the 1960s. He became friends with Liu He, who attended Beijing No. 101 school in the same district, who later became China's vice premier and a close advisor to Xi after he became China's paramount leader. In 1963, when he was aged 10, his father was purged from the CCP and sent to work in a factory in Loy, Henan. In May 1966, the Cultural Revolution cut short Xi's secondary education when all secondary classes were halted for students to criticize and fight their teachers. Student militants ransacked the Xi family home, and one of Xi's sisters, Xi Jinping, committed suicide from the pressure. Later, his mother was forced to publicly denounce his father, as he was paraded before a crowd as an enemy of the revolution. His father was later imprisoned in 1968 when Xi was aged 50. Without the protection of his father, Xi was sent to work in Liangjia village, Wen'an, Yanchuan County, Yan'an, Shaanxi, in 1969 in Mao Zedong's Down to the Countryside movement. He worked as the party secretary of Liangjia, where he lived in a cave house, according to people who knew him. This experience led him to feel affinity with the rural poor. After a few months, unable to stand rural life, he ran away to Beijing. He was arrested during a crackdown on deserters from the countryside and sent to a work camp to dig ditches, but later returned to the village, spending a total of 7 years there. The misfortunes and suffering of his family in his early years hardened Xi's view of politics. During an interview in 2000, he said, "People who have little contact with power, who are far from it, always see these things as mysterious and novel. But what I see is not just the superficial things, the power, the flowers, the glory, the applause. I see the bullpens and how people can blow hot and cold. I understand politics on a deeper level." The bullpens was a reference to Red Guards detention houses during the Cultural Revolution. After being rejected 7 times, Xi joined the Communist Youth League of China in 1971 by befriending a local official. He reunited with his father in 1972 because of a family reunion ordered by Premier Zhou Enlai. From 1973, he applied to join the CCP 10 times and was finally accepted on his 10th attempt in 1974. From 1975 to 1979, Xi studied chemical engineering at Tsinghua University as a worker peasant soldier student in Beijing. The engineering majors there spent about 15% of their time studying Marxism, Leninism, Mao Zedong thought, and 5% of their time doing farm work and learning from the People's Liberation Army. From 1979 to 1982, Xi served as secretary for his father's former subordinate Zheng Biao, the then vice premier and secretary general of the CMC. In 1982, he was sent to Zhengding County in Hebei as deputy party secretary of Zhengding County. He was promoted in 1983 to secretary, becoming the top official of the county. Xi subsequently served in 4 provinces during his regional political career: Hebei, Fujian, Zhejiang, and Shanghai. Xi held posts in the Fuzhou Municipal Party Committee and became the president of the party school in Fuzhou in 1990. In 1997, he was named an alternate member of the 15th Central Committee of the CCP. However, of the 151 alternate members of the Central Committee elected at the 15th Party Congress, Xi received the lowest number of votes in favor, placing him last in the rankings of members, ostensibly due to his status as a princeling. From 1998 to 2002, Xi studied Marxist theory and ideological education in Tsinghua University, graduating with a doctorate in law and ideology in 2002. In 1999, he was promoted to the office of vice governor of Fujian and became governor a year later. In Fujian, Xi made efforts to attract investment from Taiwan and to strengthen the private sector of the provincial economy. In February 2000, he and then Provincial Party Secretary Chen Mingji were called before the top members of PSC, General Secretary Jiang Zemin, Premier Zhu Rongji, Vice President Hu Jintao, and Discipline Inspection Secretary Wei Jiangxing, to explain aspects of the Yuanhua scandal. In 2002, Xi left Fujian and took up leading political positions in neighboring Zhejiang. He eventually took over as Provincial Party Committee Secretary after several months as acting governor, occupying a top provincial office for the first time in his career. In 2002, he was elected a full member of the 16th Central Committee, marking his ascension to the national stage. While in Zhejiang, Xi presided over reported growth rates averaging 14% per year. His career in Zhejiang was marked by a tough and straightforward stance against corrupt officials. This earned him a name in the national media and drew the attention of China's top leaders. Following the dismissal of Shanghai Party Secretary Chen Lianghu in September 2006 due to a Social Security Fund scandal, Xi was transferred to Shanghai in March 2007, where he was the party secretary there for 7 months. In Shanghai, Xi avoided controversy and was known for strictly observing party discipline. For example, Shanghai administrators attempted to earn favor with him by arranging a special train to shuttle him between Shanghai and Hangzhou for him to complete handing off his work to his successor as Zhejiang Party Secretary Zhao Hongzhou. However, Xi reportedly refused to take the train, citing a loosely enforced party regulation that stipulated that special trains can only be reserved for national leaders. While in Shanghai, he worked on preserving unity of the local party organization. He pledged there would be no purges during his administration, despite the fact many local officials were thought to have been implicated in the Chen-Liu corruption scandal. On most issues, Xi largely echoed the line of the central leadership. Xi was appointed to the 9-man PSC at the 17th Party Congress in October 2007. He was ranked above Li Keqiang, an indication that he was going to succeed Hu Jintao as China's next leader. In addition, Xi also held the first secretary of the CCP's Central Secretariat. This assessment was further supported at the 11th National People's Congress in March 2008, when Xi was elected as vice president of the PRC. Following his elevation, Xi held a broad range of portfolios. He was put in charge of the comprehensive preparations for the 2008 Summer Olympics in Beijing, as well as being the central government's leading figure in Hong Kong and Macau affairs. In addition, he also became the new president of the Central Party School of the CCP, its cadre training and ideological education wing. In the wake of the 2008 Sichuan earthquake, Xi visited disaster areas in Shaanxi and Gansu. He made his first foreign trip as vice president to North Korea, Mongolia, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Yemen from 17 to the 25th of June 2008. After the Olympics, Xi was assigned the post of committee chair for the preparations of the 60th anniversary celebrations of the founding of the PRC. He was also reportedly at the helm of a top-level CCP committee dubbed the 6521 Project, which was charged with ensuring social stability during a series of politically sensitive anniversaries in 2009. Xi's position as the apparent successor to become the paramount leader was threatened with the rapid rise of Bo Xilai, the party secretary of Chongqing at the time. Bo was expected to join the PSC at the 18th Party Congress, with most expecting that he would try to eventually maneuver himself into replacing Xi. Bo's policies in Chongqing inspired imitations throughout China and received praise from Xi himself during Xi's visit to Chongqing in 2010. Records of praises from Xi were later erased after he became paramount leader. Bo's downfall would come with the Wang Lijun incident, which opened the door for Xi to come to power without challengers. Xi is considered one of the most successful members of the Princelings, a quasi-clique of politicians who are descendants of early Chinese communist revolutionaries. Former Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, when asked about Xi, said he felt he was a thoughtful man who has gone through many trials and tribulations. Lee also commented, "I would put him in the Nelson Mandela class of persons, a person with enormous emotional stability who does not allow his personal misfortunes or sufferings affect his judgment. In other words, he is impressive." Former U.S. Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson described Xi as the kind of guy who knows how to get things over the goal line. Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd said that Xi has sufficient reformist, party and military background to be very much his own man. In February 2009, in his capacity as vice president, Xi Jinping embarked on a tour of Latin America, visiting Mexico, Jamaica, Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, and Malta, after which he returned to China. On the 11th of February 2009, while visiting Mexico, Xi spoke in front of a group of overseas Chinese and explained China's contributions during the international financial crisis, saying that it was the greatest contribution towards the whole of human race made by China to prevent its 1.3 billion people from hunger. He went on to remark, "There are some bored foreigners with full stomachs who have nothing better to do than point fingers at us. First, China doesn't export revolution. Second, China doesn't export hunger and poverty. Third, China doesn't come and cause you headaches. What more is there to be said?" The story was reported on some local television stations. The news led to a flood of discussions on Chinese internet forums, and it was reported that the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs was caught off guard by Xi's remarks, as the actual video was shot by some accompanying Hong Kong reporters and broadcast on Hong Kong TV, which then turned up on various internet video websites. In the European Union, Xi visited Belgium, Germany, Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania from 7 to the 21st of October 2009. He visited Japan, South Korea, Cambodia, and Myanmar on his Asian trip from 14 to the 22nd of December 2009. He later visited the United States, Ireland, and Turkey in February 2012. This visit included meeting with then U.S. President Barack Obama at the White House and then Vice President Joe Biden, and stops in California and Iowa, where he met with the family that previously hosted him during his 1985 tour as a Hebei provincial official. A few months before his ascendancy to the party leadership, Xi disappeared from official media coverage and cancelled meeting with foreign officials for several weeks beginning on the 1st of September 2012, causing rumors. He then reappeared on the 15th of September. On the 15th of November 2012, Xi was elected to the posts of General Secretary of the CCP and Chairman of the CMC by the 18th Central Committee of the CCP. This made him, informally, the paramount leader and the first to be born after the founding of the PRC. The following day, Xi led the new lineup of the PSC onto the stage in their first public appearance. The PSC was reduced from 9 to 7, with only Xi and Li Keqiang retaining their seats. The other 5 members were new. In a marked departure from the common practice of Chinese leaders, Xi's first speech as General Secretary was plainly worded and did not include any political slogans or mention his predecessors. Xi mentioned the aspirations of the average person, remarking, "Our people expect better education, more stable jobs, better income, more reliable social security, medical care of a higher standard, more comfortable living conditions, and a more beautiful environment." Xi also vowed to tackle corruption at the highest levels, alluding that it would threaten the CCP's survival. He was reticent about far-reaching economic reforms. In December 2012, Xi visited Guangdong in his first trip outside Beijing since taking the party leadership. The overarching theme of the trip was to call for further economic reform and a strengthened military. Xi visited the statue of Deng Xiaoping, and his trip was described as following in the footsteps of Deng's own southern trip in 1992. Which provided the impetus for further economic reforms in China after conservative party leaders stalled many of Deng's reforms in the aftermath of the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests and massacre. On his trip, Xi consistently alluded to his signature slogan, "The Chinese Dream." This dream can be said to be the dream of a strong nation. And for the military, it is a dream of a strong military, Xi told sailors. Xi's trip was significant in that he departed from the established convention of Chinese leaders' travel routines in multiple ways. Rather than dining out, Xi and his entourage ate regular hotel buffet. He traveled in a large van with his colleagues rather than a fleet of limousines, and did not restrict traffic on the parts of the highway he traveled. Xi was elected president on the 14th of March 2013, in a confirmation vote by the 12th National People's Congress in Beijing. He received 2,952 for, 1 vote against, and 3 abstentions. He replaced Hu Jintao, who retired after serving 2 terms. In his new capacity as president, on the 16th of March 2013, Xi expressed support for non-interference in China-Sri Lanka relations amid a United Nations Security Council vote to condemn that country over government abuses during the Sri Lankan civil war. On the 17th of March, Xi and his new ministers arranged a meeting with the chief executive of Hong Kong, Tsai Lung, confirming his support for Lung. Within hours of his election, Xi discussed cybersecurity and North Korea with U.S. President Barack Obama over the phone. Obama announced the visits of Treasury and State Secretaries Jacob Lew and John F. Kerry to China the following week. Xi vowed to crack down on corruption almost immediately after he ascended to power at the 18th Party Congress. In his inaugural speech as General Secretary, Xi mentioned that fighting corruption was one of the toughest challenges for the party. A few months into his term, Xi outlined the 8-point regulation, listing rules intended to curb corruption and waste during official party business. It aimed at stricter discipline on the conduct of party officials. Xi also vowed to root out tigers and flies, that is, high-ranking officials and ordinary party functionaries. Xi initiated cases against former CMC Vice Chairman Zhu Kehu and Guo Boxing, former PSC member and security chief Zhu Yongke, and former Hu Jintao chief aide Ling Jihua, along with new disciplinary chief Wang Qishan. Xi's administration spearheaded the formation of centrally dispatched inspection teams. These were essentially cross-jurisdictional squads of officials whose main task was to gain more in-depth understanding of the operations of provincial and local party organizations, and in the process, also enforce party discipline mandated by Beijing. Many of the work teams also had the effect of identifying and initiating investigations of high-ranking officials. Over 100 provincial ministerial-level officials were implicated during a massive nationwide anti-corruption campaign. These included former and current regional officials, leading figures of state-owned enterprises and central government organs, and highly ranked generals in the military. In June 2014, the Shaanxi provincial political establishment was decimated, with 4 officials dismissed within a week from the provincial party organization's top ranks. Within the first 2 years of the campaign alone, over 200,000 low-ranking officials received warnings, fines, and demotions. The campaign has led to the downfall of prominent incumbent and retired CCP officials, including members of the PSC. Xi's anti-corruption campaign is seen by critics, such as The Economist, as a political tool with the aim of removing potential opponents and consolidating power. Xi's establishment of a new anti-corruption agency, the National Supervision Commission, ranked higher than the Supreme Court, has been described by Amnesty International's East Asia director as a systemic threat to human rights that places tens of millions of people at the mercy of a secretive and virtually unaccountable system that is above the law. Xi has overseen significant reforms of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, CCP's highest internal control institution. He and 501 Secretary Wang Qishan further institutionalized 501's independence from the day-to-day operations of the CCP, improving its ability to function as a bona fide control body. According to the Wall Street Journal, any anti-corruption punishment to officials that are above the vice ministerial level need approval from Xi. Another article from the Wall Street Journal said that when he wants to neutralize a political rival, he asks inspectors to prepare hundreds of pages of evidence. The article also said that he sometimes authorizes investigations on close associates of a high-ranking politician to replace them with his own protégés and puts political rivals in less important positions to separate them from their political bases. Reportedly, these tactics have even been used against Wang Qishan, Xi's close friend. Soon, we will publish Part 2